If you're a Gen X woman or a millennial woman, even, and you have a book idea in you, or you have several book ideas in you, and you're struggling to narrow that down, or maybe the process of publishing is a bit too cumbersome and complicated to you, join me for the Spring Forward Writers Retreat coming up Thursday, March 13th to Sunday, March 16th, 2025, in sunny Orlando, Florida. We're going to guide you through the process of writing your book, and by the end of the weekend, have you walking away with a completed one. So you go from aspiring author to actual official author. We fully demystify the process for you. We take away the confusion. We take away any tech challenges because we're walking you by the hand to get these things done and sharing with you the tools that we published authors have used to get it done and get on bookshelves. And we also teach you how to get on the bestsellers list as well. So we're not just having you walk away with a draft and you're like, okay, now what? You're going to walk away with the draft and the next steps you need to market your book effectively and become a best-selling author. So don't wait. This is coming up very soon. So sign up today. Go to springforwardretreat.com. Spots are limited. Get your spot now. Go to springforwardretreat.com to get your spot.
It took them a little while to get it together, which delayed us writing and other aspects of the grant together. And so when we hit submit, we were 5 minutes behind the close window. And so immediately we lost out on the opportunity to receive over $100,000 into Access Granted. And then even more importantly, to help transform my community. Not having that paperwork in order cost us over $100,000. How much is it costing you?
Good evening. What's going on, my winners and goal getters? Welcome back to the Getting the Win show. I am your host, Melissa T, the procrastination bully. And in today's episode, I'm interviewing Guy Holley, the founder of Access Grant Ed. That's Access Grant Ed. He is a grant writer and grant coach. So we're getting into the kind of the building blocks of how to build out a successful grant and talking briefly with him about his story, like how he first got into grant writing. Now, grant writing is something you have to be proactive about, like from the beginning. That is not something you can procrastinate on. So tune in, and hey, if this interview is something you enjoy, by all means, let me know and we will have him back. All right. In the meantime, enjoy. As promised, I have the one and only Guy Holley, the founder of Access Grant Ed. You see the logo on the jacket. He looking fly and repping as
Let's
usual.
go. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So yeah,
Man.
Guy, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. And I've been ducking you. Like I've been ducking because
Bruh.
we've been talking. I've been ducking you. We meet bi-weekly and talk almost every week, and I've been ducking coming on the show. I've been procrastinating.
Yeah, y'all, I'll be giving him the look like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, she
But no,
does,
yeah,
for real.
it's great to finally have you on. I wanted to bring Guy on for you that's watching because Guy teaches a very powerful skill and a transferable skill as well. He is someone who is a grant coach, but also someone who is a grant writer and has many years of it. Like it is literally in his blood. So, Guy, I wanted to bring you on to talk about that, talk about the nuts and bolts of it. But let's start with that latter part, the fact that it is in your blood. Talk about what first got you into it and, what inspired you to continue it.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll start that. What first got me into writing grants was because of my mom. Right, I'm literally a fourth generation community resource developer. Um, Going through my mother's lineage, that work was what her family did. Getting down to my mother, really starting at around age 10. It's the earliest I can recall about hearing the term grants. Right, just being in casual conversation, like grants. Okay, it was actually when I wanted to play. Like I wanted to play some board games on the floor with my mom and my brother and my dad. And she was like, I can't right now because I'm working on this grant. And all I saw
Wow.
was paperwork spread out across the floor. Yeah, wow. And so I was like, okay, cool. She's working on a grant. Fast forward a couple more years, I started to recognize, okay, that grant or whatever grant she had was allowing myself, my peers, my brother to experience things outside of the norm for rural northeastern North Carolinians, which is where we lived at, had one stoplight in the entire county.
Wow.
I pause just so y'all can catch that. One stoplight in the entire county.
The county.
Yeah, yeah, the county. And
Wow.
and so with that, she knew that she had to do more. And so, but with that programming, with the entity actually 4-H youth development, the larger umbrella being underneath cooperative extension, she did that work to increase opportunities not only for us, her children, but for all the other kids that she knew that they needed this so that they can thrive in the world. This was 90s, 2000s when I saw this work going on. Fast forward to 2017, I after relinquishing my will and stepping into where I knew I was being led to was the 4-H youth development role back in northeastern North Carolina, a place where I said, once I go to college, I'm not coming back. I ended up coming back and becoming a 4-H youth development agent for a rural northeastern county. During that time, walked into the program, didn't have any direct funding sources to actually do the work that I was hired to do. And so the only thing I thought about is that, well, I can get grants. I heard my mom do it. I saw the things I did as a kid. You know what? Those kids that need opportunity to see more, to be exposed, I'll get some grant funding and make it happen. And that's what happened. $55,000, taking a program from zero to about 2,100 kids within
Wow.
4 years. And, only stop it because I needed to transition jobs. But then fast forward to now. Can I keep it real on this? Can I keep it real with everybody? Can I keep it real?
Let's come on.
All right, cool. So 2023, into 2022, I just was realizing that I should be doing more. Like there was something else calling me, but I just didn't know what. And so the best thing for me when I feel like that, I do a fast. In this period of time, I fasted for 44 days. I wake up Super Bowl Sunday morning, 2023. I just hear the word create a grant writing workshop. I'm like, that's real random, but okay, I'm gonna do it. That was really random because it was not in the forefront of my mind. However, meeting, Melissa and I just call her Melty, meeting Melty and the UAU mastermind community during that time period, that work that we did into developing who we are and our gifts and really, being able to present that to the world. What I realized my entire life, not my entire life, but the majority of my life experience was allowed or was created because of grant opportunities that were afforded to not just me, but again, to the peers I grew up around with. But in my household, grants was common language. It was normal. Like I didn't think anything different about it. And so from there, just started going into the work and getting deeper. And then I really saw my skill sets around programming, like designing programs that bring significant change to the community and having community partnerships with small businesses, faith-based organizations, nonprofits, everybody working together to actually transform the community, which is what I saw as a result of my mom receiving those grants. And I just started doing the same thing. Like, so what's the scripture say? I'm only doing the works I saw my father do. I was only doing the works I saw my mama do. Right. So, and that's what kept me going, and it keeps me going today because now as I'm talking to organizations, small businesses, social impact driven entrepreneurs, nonprofits, it's like, it's just normal for me. It's just as copywriting is normal for you, writing grants and that the whole world is just as normal for me. And I sit on boards now that I review grants. Well, only one board. They're trying to recruit me to another one. They've been dropping seeds for a year or so. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And and I had the opportunity to review over 80 plus grants and dictate where funding goes to what organizations. And so that gave me a really sharp lens on, okay, I'm seeing the gaps in how people do this thing. I can kind of see where they want to go, but it doesn't make sense. You know, they need to restructure some things to actually make it work that's within inside of their capacity. And what really just drives me is the change for communities, right? The thing that I experienced growing up as a kid, having things around you. You know, there's so many communities, and even if you have stuff around you, it's still being able to access it, right?
Yeah.
It's all those different pieces, and it takes funding to do it. And grants is one way to fund components. We'll get into some deeper stuff. I feel like in this conversation, I won't answer everything now. I think I'm gonna cut it there. I'm gonna cut it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Hmm.
So there was a big gap that I want to definitely jump back to. You
Okay.
mentioned that you made yourself a promise that you would not come back to
Yeah.
rural North Carolina. So where were you? Where did you
Yeah.
go that you ended
Hmm.
up coming back to rural North
Yep.
Carolina?
Yep.
And what was your original plan before coming back?
Well, absolutely. Good question. Good question. So my original plan, like in high school, ninth grade, they told us to pick a career. You know, first it
Mm,
was zoology. I was thinking like, because I
wow.
love watching Animal Planet and National Geographic as a kid, and just nerd out. Say, yo, I would love to be able to travel the world and like look at animals and different things. Started getting around like some animals and real deals. Like, yo, this ain't for me. And so even though I grew up in the country, it's still like, yo, but it's like real deal stuff that can kill you. Like, I want about that. But then I
That.
found out that, yeah, for real. I found out the pathway about physical therapy. Like, it was next. Okay. I was like, cool. They make, you know, at the time, you know, early search engine days, still, we was asking Jeeves, right? Ask Jeeves.
Hello. Ask Jeeves and
Jeeves.
Lycos. These
Right.
folks don't know nothing about none of those.
Right, right. And so asking Jeeves, you know, it was the first time I actually heard the term physical therapist.
Hmm.
Looked into that, saw that they made 90,000, saw that it was around sports and different things. I was an athlete growing up and all that. I said, okay, cool. We can do this. And it was also around helping people. And so I just pursued that. I mean, literally when I say pursued, Melody, um, during teacher work days, you know, half days, all those things, I was shadowing at the local physical therapy office. So by the time I left high school, I already had 1,000 hours of clinical exposure to an outpatient setting in physical therapy because that's what I knew I wanted to do.
Wow.
Yep. Going to North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, just had to say it for
Mm-hmm.
the folks that watch it.
Mm-hmm.
We, again, third generation, right? Third generation Aggie. Knew that's where I was going to go and was pursuing a pathway in sports science, fitness administration to lead me towards physical therapy. I graduated high school 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Finished undergrad 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Got accepted into grad school 2010. To physical therapy, started working on my master's, and they, you know, was trying to change it to a doctorate of physical therapy. And I ended up failing out my first year in physical therapy school.
Okay.
That failure led to some deep depression, super deep
Mm.
depression where, you know, when you hear the term, you know, rock and roll lifestyle or a rap star lifestyle, I was living that on a shoestring budget. So the drugs, the sex, the alcohol, all that was a part of my normal life,
Mm.
and just some real deal encounters led me to Christ, led me to getting to know who Christ was, and this was at 2011. Yep, 2011, I gave my life to Christ. 2010, I fell out of grad school my first year, went through that major depression. And then 2011, gave my life to Christ. And that was the switch to me because I was still trying to get back into physical therapy. But my first mentor, my first like real deal pastor, uh, he recognized that guy, what do you do as a physical therapist? And I was like, I move people. I remember this conversation as clear as it was then today. He says, you move people. And I didn't get that till we went to Carl's piece of my name, Guy. One of the translations means a valley. It's a spot
Mhm.
of transition to help people
Mhm.
from, I've interpreted it as moving from one space to another, but they have to pass through here to go into the next journey. But anyways, all that to say, focus on entrepreneurship in that time period. Just okay, I'm leaving physical therapy behind. What's next, God? I'm just trusting you. This is 2011. So 2011 to 2017, sorry, 2012 to 2017, moved to New Jersey, started, just doing what I thought was the next best thing. The job that took me there was working in regulatory affairs for Colgate Palmolive. Um, Spent about a year and a half there, got fired and laid off during that time. During that time, I was building a network marketing business. That was my first like real deal into business, and I was just taking that super serious. Um, I didn't leave it. I didn't stop the network marketing business until like 2016. Some things would happen with the company, but I also stopped physical therapy. I stopped the idea of entrepreneurship at that time because it wasn't. I felt like it wasn't going the way that I wanted it to go. It was. I wasn't seeing the money. That's what I wasn't seeing.
Mhm.
Like to me, the success was I was not seeing the bread. I hit residual income, but I won't seeing the bread like I thought I would. I was working different jobs. Working for PNC Bank at that time, working in direct sales, like going door to door, cold market, business to business, like selling. From there. But the place that really humbled me ended up working at Chick-fil-A. Shout out to Marlon Terrell, one of the best owner operators that Chick-fil-A has. And he gave me a shot. After he saw my arrogance, he still gave me a shot. And arrogance because I was already making significant money at PNC Bank, even though I got fired because of some crazy stuff there that happened. It's not crazy stuff. It was the promotion out because I was getting comfortable in the spot that I wasn't supposed to be in. That's
Mm.
actually what it was. Um, Meet Marlon. He gives me a second opportunity to go meet him. The first time when I get fired, my ego was way up. I'm like, yo, I'm not working at anybody's Chick-fil-A. They made two less of money for what I was making at the bank. I'm about to be a branch manager, and I'm talking about working at somebody's restaurant. I got a bachelor's degree and all this. I didn't understand the opportunity.
Mhm.
So to wrap this up, end up working at Chick-fil-A, getting really humbled, seeing the challenges that youth were facing. I just began to pray. I said, okay, God, I'm seeing these things, becoming an owner operator of Chick-fil-A, because I still, even though I was frustrated with the entrepreneurial journey, I still didn't give up on it. It
Mhm.
was always there like that. It was a bug always calling me. So I was thinking, okay, I was going to own a Chick-fil-A. It didn't align with my health values. And so with me humbling myself, the door was open for me to come back to North Carolina. Actually, I applied to the 4-H agent role in New Jersey and in other portions of North Carolina. And the one in northeastern North Carolina, my home area, was the last one I applied to. And then that's the only one that's the one that hired me. I didn't get interviews for the other ones.
Wow.
And I'm looking at it now as just like that was the best move because those other places had money coming in. Those other places had an endowment account where they could just pull money from to do their programming. I walked into a situation that had no money,
Mm.
but people who were hungry for something different. So that's the gap. That's the story. I apologize if I was a little long winded, but I want to kind of give a little bit of context there, kind of what happened. But yeah, that was the journey from leaving high school, 2004, from Gates County, went to Greensboro, North Carolina, went to New Jersey, spent a lot of time up there, and then came back down 2017.
That I'm glad you filled that in because I mean, you can't be leaving out the part where you meet Jesus. Like, come on, dude.
True, 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 true.
That's
Very much
super
so.
important.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
But yeah, I I find it very poetic that the one place you didn't want to come back to is the one place that hired you. Like
Yep.
none of the others responded. So I
Yep.
think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was recently watching a podcast with Tim Ross. He has a daily show now called Wide Open. I think it was during that daily show where he mentioned the irony of like when God is calling people, he's
Mhm.
usually picking people who don't want that role. Like they don't want to do it. He never really chooses
Yeah.
somebody that's like hungry for it. Like
Yeah.
if we see how Jesus chose his disciples, they were minding their business.
Yeah.
Literally their business. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Tax collectors, fishermen. They were
Yeah.
minding their business. And he
Yeah.
was like, "Come on,
Yeah.
I'm gonna teach you to be fishers of men."
Yeah.
Right? So you're
Yeah.
like, I never
Yeah.
want to go back to that place. God was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, you could say that, but I got something exactly for you over here. Like, I'm going to bring you right back here. Right.
Listen, listen. I so this there was one portion of the story I didn't share, but you just brought it back to that. I did
Mm.
not want to be in 4-H. You know,
Mm.
even though I knew like the importance of it, I wanted to do my own thing. You know, I wanted to build my own pathway. Like
Yep.
you know, I heard the call for entrepreneurship and I saw the resources that it could bring in and allow me to do things that I wanted to really do with my family and a lifestyle I wanted to build. I didn't see that opportunity with 4-H. You know,
Mm.
I actually saw more when it came time to work in the position. I made a decision from a traumatic standpoint. While my mom, you know, she did phenomenal work, it still caused some strain in our household. You know, of
Mm.
time of one on one time with my mom. You know, one on one time with um, you know, things that happened with her and my dad, and just some of the things that she climbed. Like it was never the payout. Like I was seeing all the work that she did, and it was never the payout wasn't there.
Mm.
And because again, I learned from Robert Kiyosaki, like all the different gurus in in generating income. But what I had to realize, it was more about purpose
Yeah.
over profits. And so the first time I applied for the 4-H agent position, because this is actually just right when same ego, arrogant time, I applied for the 4-H agent position. I was supposed to come do an interview in person. They didn't let me go do it. Sorry, they let me. I didn't have to go in person. They let me just do it remotely. Zoom wasn't there, Skype wasn't there. I was actually on a phone call, but my spirit, it was a spirit of arrogance. Like, yo, I don't really want to do this. I'm only doing it to do it for my mom, like kind of deal. I don't really care.
Mm.
And so the same person that was in that hiring position then was the same person in the hiring position for the role in Bertie. Fast forward later.
That's
So,
crazy.
and I think about it now, could I have been doing this work a little earlier? Actually, no, I came in at the right time because I'm looking back at that other position. They had a fund. They had actually had an endowment account where they could do anything they really want to do. They don't have to necessarily have to worry about grants. Um, but it's just like, again, how our paths are orchestrated. And again, I was not looking to. 4-H was the furthest thing away from my mindset to do it, to be employed by, to do or anything. So yeah,
Yeah. Irony. Hey, I had 9 years of experience in the news media industry. That was not an industry I ever wanted to be in. God was like, I'm gonna walk you through there anyway. Like, there's some stuff you're gonna learn through there.
yeah,
And I'm glad.
yeah,
Like
yep.
on the other side, I'm
Me
glad
too.
because I became a much more effective communicator as a result of that experience.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah. So let's get into some brass
Hmm.
tacks though, because I love
Yeah,
to give our folks value. What are
yeah.
some of the some of the key elements to a grant that people would need to understand, or that are like must-haves in one? If, someone watching, they have heard about grants for small businesses, like what would they need to know to get started?
hmm hmm Yeah. So when I think about grants, while there are, really five key elements to an application,
Mhm,
there are several things. You can say there are really seven components that you really need to consider when going after grants.
mhm,
One, it's, are you foundationally and structured in a position, foundationally structured to receive grants, right? That means, do you have your organization set up, a nonprofit, small business, faith-based organization? Okay, because most grants, you have to have an entity to give in towards. You need to show that you exist. All right.
right.
The other component to that, one of the other elements that I would say would be number two, is identifying who your partners are. Who are your community? What's in your who are your partners in your community? The reason I say that, because yeah, there was a period you can still get grants by yourself. Like you can be operating solo dolo, doing your own thing. You can still get grants. But what's happening now is that they're asking, who are your partners on applications? Who are you serving in your community on applications? You need to know who the players are, so that way it makes your application that much stronger. Because in a world of competitive grant writing, think about it. There are thousands of people potentially applying for one application, one funding source. So that means they're going to read through. They're
Mhm,
going to read through this information and see, okay, cool, who's in the best position to win, right? Who's in the best position to do this work, not just to do it today, but do it long term. That's what they're looking
mm,
for.
important.
Absolutely. Then the other five pieces that you need to be considering are on the application. What's the problem you're solving? Right? What currently is happening, what should be. What currently is happening in your business, what should be. Example, worked with a group out in Kitsap, Washington. There was a young lady who needed, um, she baked cookies, right? Her cookies got so good that she could not meet up with demand. So she needed some funds to purchase a mixer.
Mhm,
And so through that grant, she was able to get a mixer to be able to produce more cookies, which then helped her to proceed. So what currently is, what should be, right? Then you move into understanding of what's your goal, right? What's the goal? Then your objectives, how are you going to meet the goal? Like the one thing that's going to solve the problem that you assume is going to, solve the problem. What are your objectives to meet that goal? Then when you think about the objectives on how you're going to meet it, what are the outcomes going to be? Okay, cool. Let's just say, for the work that I do and the last grant that we just received, there's 800,000, like as of today, there's right around $800,000 to give out in my local community for health and wellness initiatives. However, the problem is a lot of a lot of the organizations in our community do not know how to do strong programming. They don't know how to structure it.
mm,
They don't even know how to let alone communicate it. They don't know how to structure it. They don't know what to do. They just do kind of outreach things like, we're gonna give some help kids take food home. That's cool, but then what is the next step they're going to take them through? So talking to the funders, the grantors, right? They said, hey, we want to be able to give out 10, 20, $50,000 to organizations, but we can't see what they're doing on paper. So I said, okay, cool, here's a problem. My objective now, and the grant that we received, is allow me to train people in my community, go deeper with them, like in coaching and helping them to develop their tool sets, and redesign their programming, so that way they can go apply for larger funds and have a greater impact long term.
mhm,
And so that's how I'm looking at my outcomes from the objective of training people in my community. The outcome is this: they will be able not only to understand grants and understand their programming, but then apply for that. And then the other portion of the other outcome is that they'll be able to transform their community because people are taking advantage of the programs that they have in place now. Okay. Then through there, you got to understand your budget. How much is this going to cost you? Another component is how are you going to evaluate the work that you're doing? And then also, how are you going to do this? Your methods, your strategy, what makes sense? It tells people what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so by not having those things in place, you automatically put yourself at failure for winning grants. Like you already disqualify yourself if you can't answer those things on your own. They don't have to be written in a grant format, but if you can't communicate it to yourself, to others, then you're already gonna be losing, because then you have to translate just talking about it to on paper in a structured format. And then that's where, I see that they don't have that first portion together. They're already gonna lose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so let's recap that real quick.
Sure. I know I gave a lot, right?
He ran down the full 7, y'all. So I want to highlight it so you guys can go back and listen back to it. So was that first one like purpose, and then the second one was partners, like the purpose of your organization, or no, the entity, like making sure the company is actually formed, like paperwork, y'all. If you want to use a P, that's it. Paperwork.
Yes.
Partners.
Paperwork.
That's the first two. Paperwork is number 1. Partners is number 2. Then getting into the 5 elements that's actually in the grant application. The problem, like what you're solving, the problem you're solving, and then run the rest back down.
Yep. So you've been coming to my workshops, haven't you? My webinars.
Absolutely.
So she's been listening. I was like, she's about to go through the whole list right there for y'all.
I was about to. I'm like, let me alley you. Let me alley you.
No, it's all good. So for me, before this, I'm gonna run it through the 7 first, and then say the next thing. Paperwork. What's the other P? I don't talk in P's.
Paperwork partners. Paperwork.
There you
partners,
go. Partners. Paperwork partners. Right. Paperwork partners. The problem. Then looking at your goals. Your goals, objectives, outcomes. Then evaluation. Your budget. And your methods. How are you going to do it? Right. And so for me, because she's been coming to my webinars, my trainings, one of the biggest pieces that I needed to make sure was that you had a knowledge transfer, a knowledge change, an understanding about grants and how to go about getting them. And because she's been listening to the content, to my webinars, she can now say, okay, cool. Do I have this in place? Do I have the partners in place? Do I clearly understand my problem statement and what I'm actually solving for? And so for me, that's showing that, hey, how I'm communicating is working, because that's a part of my outcomes that I have, is to help change knowledge. And so now Melissa, I can hear that her knowledge has changed about grants. Yeah. She's been in my process. So
word. Hey, listen, man. For you who's watching, if you've been tuning into the Getting the Win show for any period of time, one of the things I harp on very often is finding your who. And we are a case study of that. Like, Guy needed someone who could help phrase what he does, like encapsulate what he does, his expertise, in a way that is easier for others to understand. And we got together and we mapped all of that out. And at this point, he has his website up now. Like, all of that is neatly packaged and ready for anyone who needs his services. And conversely, or complementarily, I'm in the process of working on one project right now, obviously the Spring Forward Writers Retreat. And he helped me map out just my problem statement. Like, he did the work session with me to do the problem statement. But in attending his webinars and learning those other parts of a grant, one of the things that I've come to understand, and this is why it's going to be a game changer for you if you get with someone like Guy, if you get with him and you learn to understand how to craft that master grant blueprint. Like once you get that blueprint, you can apply
Mhm.
that to literally any kind of fundraising, whether you're doing it from the grant approach, in
Mhm.
which a grantor is sending out the invitation for you to apply for their money, or if you're doing it from the small business or event coordination side of things, and you're putting on an event like I am, and you're approaching potential sponsors and you're pitching them. If you have all of this stuff already mapped out in the beginning, it'll be a lot easier for them to understand what you're doing and increase your probability of getting a yes. So that's why I said at the beginning, this is a transferable skill. Like it's not only in applying for grants, it's also in proactively approaching potential like cold sponsors, like cold pitching them. It increases your chances of saying yes when they see that you have your stuff together. Because can we be real, Guy? Like not a lot of people got their stuff together.
No, no, it's
You know?
yeah, it's real, and it seems like it's tedious, but it positions you. And let me tell you a quick story about what happens when you don't have your stuff together.
Mm.
And whew, take a deep breath.
Woosah.
So last year, 2023, I have a partner in the community. Like we were developing partnership, and they receive an opportunity to apply for a grant that would do a lot of work for 1 year within their programming. They hear that I'm doing this work, around, helping to build capacity with inside of organizations, and they reach out to me, like some local. I'm right here, right down the road from them. And so this is a federal grant, six, just over six figures in funding, to be utilized. With that time period, we only had less than 3 weeks to get it in. Typically, when going after a federal grant, it's about a 6-week process to make sure all the
Mm.
things are together. So we had
Mm.
3 weeks. And so a portion of that as being a contractor on this grant, I had to make sure that my team had their things in order, their resumes pretty much was the main component. And so my assumption was that everybody had their resume structured like mine. And in that way, like even for yourself, here's a pro tip. Structure your resume in a format that shows how you made change in that organization.
Mm.
Again, what was the problem? Talk about the problem and then how you made change in it, especially if you're using it for grants, because that builds trust in the person who's reading that grant application to say that, okay, cool. This person has the skill set to be able to lead this organization, to do the program, to do whatever it may be. So my team didn't have it together. And it took them a little while to get it together, which delayed us writing it in other aspects of the grant together. And so when we hit submit, we were 5 minutes behind the close window. And so immediately we lost out on the opportunity to receive over $100,000 into Access Granted. And then even more importantly, to help transform my community. And so
Mm.
that was a double hurt, right? Because I care about my community. I care about seeing people win. But then also too, getting some bread in my pocket would have been, in my pocket and my team's pocket, that just would have been
That would have been
fire.
nice.
Fire.
Ah.
But right. But not having that paperwork in order cost us over $100,000. How much is it costing you?
Mm.
Yeah. So I'll stop there because you know how I go on that rant a little bit.
Yeah, he'll get to preaching, y'all. He'll get to preaching in a good way, in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So very quickly as we wrap up here, you guys, if you were wondering what that had to do with beating procrastination, you heard the cost of procrastinating there. Like with grant writing or business fundraising in general, you have to be proactive. You have to be proactive. So, Guy, this is just a brief taste of what they can learn from you. I know you've been doing your workshops um, in two parts at the end of each month in partnership with North Carolina Small Business. So, kind of tell our audience where they can find you if they want to learn more about you, about your workshops, or anything else that you're doing.
Yeah. So one of the places that you can go to connect with me is our website. It's www.accessgrant-ed.com. And there you can book a call, to see, if you need some support, kind of some guidance somewhere you want to, head and, thinking some things through. Free 30 minutes for you guys. So definitely take opportunity to stop there. The other place where you can start, just listen to our content is on YouTube at Guy A. Holley on YouTube. Also the same on Instagram, it's access_grant-ed, but YouTube would be the better spot to really get a lot of free information that we're being put out, that we're putting out now. Also through there in the description notes, you'll start to see when upcoming webinars are. Right now, we ended the current contract with the North Carolina Small Business Center. My email came last night. So this is the recording of this is February 28th. On February 27th was my last one for the winter, series with the Small Business Center. However, we were in conversation now about scheduling the next one in April and May. But I've also been looking at just doing them doing them by myself. So just keep a lookout on our YouTube page about when those webinars are coming up, because I will be letting you all know so you can get the information you need to access the grant funding that you need for your business, your organization, so you can go and transform your community.
Well said. And don't worry, guys, because this feels like it's a robbery. We will have Guy back on here if you want to learn more, because this man is an encyclopedia, low key. Like, those glasses are fitting, okay? So we hope you enjoyed this
Yeah,
interview and found it helpful. We will have you back, Guy. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, man.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. How did you enjoy that interview? Did that kind of unlock a few things? Hopefully it did, because as I mentioned, like, even in my own experience in working with Guy, it was an eye opener. Like, understanding that it can be applied on those skills can be applied on both sides, whether cold pitching or applying for a grant where the grantor is saying, "Hey, here's this money that we're putting on the table. Feel free to compete for it." You know, the what he teaches and how he coaches organizations and entrepreneurs, that stuff is bedrock. It's foundational stuff. If you're an entrepreneur, it's helpful for your business. If you're someone who is an author, even laying that out is going to be helpful for your marketing plan. Like, being clear on who your book is for, what it's about, the need that it meets. Even if your book is fiction, like, being clear on all of those things can be a game changer if you're looking for funding, even for marketing funds for your, for your author stuff. Whatever context, like, this stuff is applicable. It's universally usable. So if you enjoyed this interview, let me know. Leave it in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. And of course, remember to like, share, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. Subscribe on YouTube at Getting the Win. Follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. All right. But in the meantime and between time, have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.